Hello, hello there. It is Margarita Alcantara, activator for the New Code of Power, and also keeper of the Blue Flame. And also, I am a carrier of the Consciousness of Oneness codes. And if you haven't met me yet, if we haven't met yet, I help spiritually conscious entrepreneurs activate their power on the next level of their power in order for them to make deep, deep impact in the world. So every week on Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern, I have my Rise Up with Margarita show. And so I welcome you here because every single week we talk about a different topic. And so for those of us who are in the US, happy Memorial Day. I know a lot of people have today off. And hi, Jamie. Hi, Diana. And I think it's Acu Gemstone is here as well. Hello, everyone. Do say hello as you pop in. And so some folks, those of us here in the U.S., have taken off for today. But me, since I'm a spiritually conscious entrepreneur, I make my own schedule anyway. So it's all good. And so today's topic is 3 ways to embrace your sovereignty. And so this topic has really been coming up a lot recently, and it's really, really important for me to speak into this and to also help you on this because the reality is that this is a time where we get to embrace our sovereignty now more than ever. And this really is a time for us to rise up into our consciousness because this is that time. So, you might actually hear a lot of things going on in the media about, it's a war on this, it's a war on that. And the true war is actually on our consciousness. And so in order to really address that in ourselves, it is imperative to really take ownership of your sovereignty. And so today is 3 ways to embrace your sovereignty. And I'm also looking over here. If you're noticing, I'm looking over here because I wrote some notes for myself so I could stay on point, as I always desire to do for you guys. And so sovereignty. Some people actually ask, what is sovereignty anyway? Because it's a lovely, powerful sounding word, but for some, they're not really familiar with that word in the first place. Sovereignty is when you have claimed your I am, you have claimed that you are a divine being, you have claimed that you take ownership of, and that's a really important word when it comes to sovereignty, taking ownership. Well, I guess that's 2 words. Taking ownership of your sovereignty. That's really, really important because when you do so, you're literally saying you are taking ownership of who you are as a being on this planet, as a spiritual conscious being on this planet, and taking sovereign ownership of that you are, that divine being that you are, that creator being that you are. Hi, Angela. Good to see you. And Inspiring Goddess is here as well. Hold on, let me just adjust this phone. Yeah. So this is all about really taking ownership of who you are as a sovereign being, because when you really do take ownership of who you are as a sovereign being, as a divine being, and you really recognize that and take ownership of it rather than, oh, who am I to be so and so, or I'm not good enough to be that, or I'm not lovable to be this, or I don't have enough money to do that, and all these excuses that we make as people in the world that are not true, right? We actually take ownership of something. And when we're not taking ownership of our sovereignty, we're taking ownership of our fear, right? And so my encouragement and huge invitation to you is to take ownership of your sovereignty, because when you do, not only do you create alignment within yourself, right? But you also claim what is yours. And so, and I'm talking about all the things, right? Because, I noticed that a lot of light workers, they're all like, love and light, and then we call it a day, right? That's not being a light worker. Being a light worker in this time during the planetary awakening requires us to really step it up. It requires us to get out of our own ways. It requires us to take ownership of all of who we are rather than going into, oh, I'm not good enough for that, or I'm not worthy of this, or I'm not lovable. And as you can notice, I'm mentioning all these same patterns because they are recurring patterns I see in light workers all the time. because, and that's what I mean by rising up as a light worker. It's not just enough anymore to be like, love and light, everyone. See y'all later, and then going off in the ether, right? And maybe at one point it did, right? But even then, it really wasn't what it takes. What it requires now is really for us to take ownership of our light, ownership of who we are as divine beings. And so if there's anywhere within you right now who is still saying you're not enough, who's still saying you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough, you're not lovable enough, you don't have access to time or money or power or any of these things, understand that you are programming yourself with that directive. And that is how powerful you are, beloved. Because when you actually say, I don't have this, I don't have that, I am not this, I am not that, you are directing the energy in your body to align that with your truth, right? And so I'm going to really put it in here that we're going to stay on topic around our sovereignty and really be present, right? Because that's also what we get to do when we are light workers who are rising up, is that we get to be present with what is going on in this powerful experience. So, just consider that whatever you have been afraid of yourself to have or to experience or to do in this world, consider that that might not be the truth. Consider that that might be illusion. And so anywhere where you are believing that you're incapable, that you can't do this, that you can't make that you don't have access to this, you are propagating a lie within your energy system that then becomes the new programming. And so when you are taking ownership of your sovereignty, you are relinquishing that old paradigm, those old paradigms connected to I am not enough, I don't have enough of this, I don't have enough of that, I can't do this, I'm not capable of that. That is all old paradigm. And when you take ownership of your sovereignty, truly, I'm not talking about just saying it and then calling it a day. I'm talking about truly doing the work to make sure it actually is a truth within your soul. So I just want that to land with you for a minute, because there's a lot of, light workers who are out there in the cosmos, and it feels really awesome when you're there. And I get it. I've been there and I go there often, right? However, the thing is, it is about time that we get grounded in our power, in our bodies, in our sovereignty, in our human form, that we trust our bodies, that we trust our intuition, that we trust our immune systems, that we trust our light, we trust who we are to be in this world. That's what it takes. It's not just, oh, awesome, and like having that be the experience, because it, here's the thing. And I just want to give you a sobering context here. And then I'm going to move on to the 3 ways you can embrace your sovereignty. So the sobering fact is this, and this is something that if you've been following my lives for a little bit now, you've heard me say this before, but Team Dark, they are organized. They're organized. They are on it, right? And light workers, not as much. And I'm saying that as a light worker. So I'm saying this with so much love to our community. We're not so much. And so that is why it is really important to take ownership of your sovereignty and to clear out those fear paradigms anywhere where you feel fear. Not to say that you are going to be completely this fearless being in the world, right? But what I'm saying is, it is going to be different. And what I mean by that is that it gets to also be organized. You get to also, not in like an OCD kind of way. I know I sometimes can get that way. I don't know about anyone else here. However, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, when it comes to you, it's about you clearing out those fears that are allowing you to be manipulated. Because that's why I'm always talking about clearing out these fears is not only because obviously it benefits you, number one, and I want you to clear that so that you're then no longer operating from that fear matrix, because it is a matrix. Whenever you're operating from fear of believing you don't have access to joy, love, health, wealth, money, happiness, love, expansion, any of those times that where you're believing that, that is the old fear paradigm at work. And so if you want to experience what is really your truth, it is about allowing yourself to tap in the truth of who you are, which is not that you're deficient. That's not the truth. You are not deficient, right? You get to take ownership of all of who you are. And so that is the type of organization I'm talking about within yourself, to believe in yourself enough. I'm not talking about like, um, be this like amazing superhero being like right at the second, right? What I'm talking about is let those old things go. Recognize it for what it is and allow yourself enough courage to let them go for real. And say, actually, I get that, this thought has served me for quite some time, and it did. It served you. Whatever lies you continue to believe right now, it served you at one point. And so have some deep gratitude around that, right? That it's kept you safe all this time. And then you say, thank you, and we don't require that anymore. We don't require that assistance anymore. Because here's what I desire to experience in this world right now. And so that is the start of it. Because when you start to clear out those fear paradigms within yourself and peel back the layers, and for some people, it's like this big shebang that they've been waiting for, right? But normally and typically and usually, it is layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, and going deeper, deeper, deeper until you get deeper, right? And there's always more room to go deeper. No matter how enlightened you are, there's always room to go deeper. There's always a higher level to reach for. There's always a next level, always. And so when it comes to your sovereignty, it is about really taking ownership of your fullness of who you are. And so that's just really kind of an encapsulation of what sovereignty is about, and why it would strongly behoove you to take ownership of that. And because here's the thing, and here again, I'm going to this is just the truth, okay? If you don't take ownership of your power and who you are, something else will. And I'm just saying that as someone who's been doing, I've been in private practice for, I don't know, 12 plus years now. And I've seen it literally in my private practice, where people who do not take ownership of their sovereignty, they have a very difficult time. They have a very difficult time. And I would like you to not have a difficult time. I would like you to have a joyous time, to have a sovereign time, to have a wonderful, full of love time, because that's what you deserve. And that's really what's here for you. And so that's why I really encourage you to strongly tap into your own personal sovereignty of yourself as a divine being. And anything where you have separated yourself from seeing yourself as that's where your work lies. So here are 3 ways to embrace your sovereignty. And, some of them sound really simplistic, but the truth is they work. And I wouldn't share anything with you that doesn't work. So there are people here in Instagram, they're mentioning about courage, exactly what's needed. Another one is saying, I've been asking for courage and confidence for a year. You don't ask for courage and confidence. You decide to have courage and confidence. You don't ask to be in your power. You decide to be in your power. You don't ask to be in your sovereignty. You decide to be in your sovereignty. You don't, it even goes into like money, because sometimes even light workers, they have this discord between the spiritual world and the earthly realm. And so they are like, oh, no, we're going to not talk about money because that's earthly, right? The truth is, everything in your personal life right now is a reflection of your beliefs in yourself. that are originating from how you see yourself as a spiritual being. So, yes, you don't ask to be wealthy, you decide that you're wealthy. And that can be on all the levels, right? I am wealthy in being able to have healthy food to eat. I am wealthy that I have all this love that I'm surrounded by. I am wealthy in the fact that I am love. I am wealthy in the fact that I have a roof over my head. And also, I am wealthy because I have money, right? And this is not something that because this is part of taking ownership of your power. It's not about waiting for some, hypothetical situation where someone just, unloads a bunch of power and money and worthiness and love on you, right? You get to decide that for yourself because you're a sovereign being if you claim it. So here are the 3 ways to embrace it. I mean, there's so many more, but these are some really easy, accessible, quick ways to do this. So number 1, declare that you are sovereign. So again, with the decisions around what it is you want to be experiencing, having in your life, right? So declare that you are sovereign. And that can look like many different ways. So you can say, I am a sovereign being. You can say, I take ownership of my sovereignty. And, and also, keeping in mind here, because I'm seeing some notes and Jackie's saying, been working on this, so needed, embodying it. It's all choices. Absolutely. And I'm seeing it speaking to some folks as well. And keep in mind too, that light workers get to take ownership of their money. It's not, I know that light workers love to be like, I'm wealthy because I'm loved. That is, of course, one of the number one truths, right? But if you don't include money in that situation, especially if you're a light worker, then you are giving yourself a disservice. Because the truth is that when you're a light worker, you're here to be in service. And yeah, you can go into the old paradigm thing of the energy exchange, right? But the truth is that yes, it is an energy exchange, and the old paradigm is all about, time per dollar and all this other stuff that we've talked about, right? It is actually about, taking ownership of it all, taking ownership of all that you desire in life. And, the truth is that, and I speak into this money thing with light workers because it's a thing. It's a thing for light workers to not take ownership of their money. There's, and I'm not going to go too deep into it because today's topic is about sovereignty versus the money thing, which I have talked about in a separate live. But the reality is that if you don't clear that, you are not going to be of service. And it's not that you have to have money to be of service, but it does require you to up level and invest in yourself so that you can show up in a higher way for your clients. It also requires you to elevate your frequency. And if you're still in the scarcity of, I don't have access to money, as one of those examples of what you believe you don't have access to, then you are resonating at a frequency that does not allow for the expansion and for the next level of growth. And so that's what I really want to speak into that. And Jackie's saying, yes, very much felt guilty or coming from lack mentality. And that's the thing with a lot of light workers, right? But you get to decide, how you want to be experiencing your life. And if you want to be in your sovereignty, that also means being connected to all those levels of consciousness. The new power is a consciousness. The new wealth is a consciousness. All of the things that you desire in your life are a consciousness. And if you still think that you're separated from all of these things on some level because it makes you feel gross or you haven't done that inner work around these things, then that's where you get to open up even more deeply for yourself, like whatever it is, because there's always room to work. There's always room to work on ourselves on. So the second way that you can embrace your sovereignty, and this is kind of a little kind of segue from number 1, is to declare your I am. Declare your I am. And your I am is that higher version of you who is connected to all of who you are. And when you allow yourself, I mean, you're always connected to your I am and to your higher self, to that bigger version of who you are. You're always connected. Whether or not you believe you are is another thing, right? And that's where, that work lies for some people. But where you can declare that connection is you can literally just say, I am, and then fill in the blank. And so that blank would be filled with, what you really are, not what you're afraid that you're not. Okay? Just even thinking about the resonance of the words of, when people say, oh, or I'm not good enough for me to do such and such, right? Or I'm not at the perfect weight to move ahead and do such and such. Or I am moving through a divorce or a breakup, and therefore I'm unworthy, or whatever stuff is going on there, and therefore I can't do such and such, right? It doesn't matter what you're moving through. If you believe, and it is, right? If you believe that because, let's say, you're going through a breakup, you therefore are not capable of either experiencing love, having love, providing love, then that will be your narrative. But you could also turn it around, and this is where empowered light workers do that work, where they turn that around, and instead of believing that narrative, they create a new one. And you do that by saying, I am, fill in the blank, right? And so that blank gets filled with powerful declarations. So in order to embrace your sovereignty, for instance, on the deepest levels of your being, believe, I am sovereign. I am sovereign. And if you even just say that like 3 times in a row with meaning, with true, genuine connection, you are actually imprinting it out into the universal field, into the universal frequency as truth. And when you declare whatever it is you're declaring as truth, then the universe will reflect that back to you as, oh, well, of course you're sovereign, right? Or of course you're wealthy. Of course you're abundant. Of course you're joyful. So this is why it's so important to I don't want to say watch your words, right? But to be conscious about the dialogue you are creating as a creator being in the world. And so I'm loving this. Jamie says, it takes money to rehabilitate this planet, so make it rain healing money for the light workers. Yeah, and that is also about ownership, right? It's really about, being like, I take ownership of my money. I take ownership of my wealth. I clear out all the old paradigms that I have believed around my money. I clear out all of the old beliefs that I've been taught about money, right? And just really believe that, and really do that work to understand what those things are that you're clearing out. Because you can't just like say it out into the ether without having any consciousness around what it is you're clearing out, because that's the number one step, of course. But I love what Jamie's sharing here about, we work on the light realm and the spiritual realm in order for all the stuff in the earthly realm to happen. And in order for that to happen, it's something that we get to take ownership of how we want that outcome to look. And so I'm loving, some folks are already putting here, I am sovereign. I love that. I'm also seeing, I declare I am courageous. Yeah, I love this. And that's how you do it. That's like a really quick, simple way to access that sovereignty of yours, to genuinely, from a true place in your heart, declare that I am sovereign. And other ways you can use the I am statement. I am power. I am light. I am money. I am love. I am truth. All of those things, right? These are some of the ways you can use that I am statement. But in regards to the sovereignty, I am sovereign. So number 3, expand into the fullest version of you, the version that is unlimited. And so if you're doing this already, awesome, congratulations, keep going. And if you still are yet to open up into the fullest version of you, and if you're resisting on any level, get curious about the resistance. Because when you get curious about your resistance, then it doesn't become, first of all, a judgment because you're not judging yourself and you don't need to. That doesn't serve you. You just genuinely get curious, like, why am I doing that? I'm curious. And then just like kind of look under the hood a little bit, see what you're holding there around that, and genuinely desire to be curious about what it is you are holding resistance around that for yourself. Like why? Why are you? Right? And then when you go from it from that curious place, then it's a little bit more lighter too. It's like you must find out, right? Like and have it be really heavy all of a sudden. It gets to be this, curiosity that like what if? Let's open this up. Let's check this out as a lot of folks like to say, let's unpack this, right? And it's about just expanding, just getting curious. Why are you holding into these certain resistances? Um, why? How are you doing that? Is that still something you'd like to experience? Or is it something you'd like to shift? And from that place, you then have an understanding of, okay, this is the consciousness I've been holding around this. And upon reassessment, I'm understanding that I am not okay with this way I've been doing things. And then if you're not okay about how you've been doing things, then shift it into, okay, what would I like instead? What do I want to be experiencing instead? If it has not been that you've been aligning with that declaration, I am sovereign, then what would align you to that? And just get curious. Write it down, you know? So Jackie poses a great question. How do you know if resistance is fear versus something not in alignment with you? This is a great question because, and I say that because a lot of people think this question. Some of them don't actually say it though. So I'm glad you did. Like a new opportunity comes up and you don't know if you want to continue. So resistance generally is, oftentimes I'll say, oftentimes when there's a true resistance, like, nope, nope, don't want to do it, don't want to go there, like, don't feel like it, don't want to, then that is from a trigger. That's from a trigger. That's not alignment. If you are coming from a place of alignment, then you will usually not have like a huge resistance in the first place. Because if it's an alignment, even if it's scary, then there will be usually like both of them will coexist where the fear that wants to keep you in the safety of your ego will be like, nope, not safe, resisting, 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 right? But then there's that little nugget of your truth in your heart saying, but I kind of get excited about that. I'm excited about that. I want that. I really kind of want that, right? And when they coexist like that, and but your resistance is like, nope, 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 nope. But then there's a party that's like, oh, but I really would like that, then that is resistance because you are just simply afraid that you're not capable. And I'm going to take a look at the question again just to make sure I'm speaking into it. Versus something not in alignment with you. Something that's not in alignment, and this is where, and this is why it's really important to really trust your intuition and really connect with your sovereignty and to trust it implicitly. Because when you don't trust in your intuition, it is really easy to mistake your fear for alignment or for your higher guidance. And the difference between that is that your fear will come up to you in resistance, will come up to you as a triggered experience. It is like an impulse that you can't stop. And so it's like, for instance, Jackie mentioned an opportunity. And if the resistance is like, ah, no way, no way, no way, no way, right? If it's like that, that's a triggered state. That's not coming from alignment. That's not coming from your intuition. That's coming just from straight up fear. Whereas your intuition is not going to be like, oh, wait a minute, no, right? Unless you're about to jump off a cliff, then yeah, maybe that would be that urgent. But usually, your intuition and your higher self, if it were not in alignment, for instance, it would be this, how would I describe it? Kind of like a voice that's very steady, very stable, very clear. It's not caught up in some emotion. It's just really neutral. And it'll say something like, it's time for you to do this. Or this is not for you. And it comes from a really true, neutral place. And it's usually not in your face and loud and obnoxious. That's usually the fear. So I hope that's helpful. And so, just speaking into, like let's say when it comes to money, for instance, right? Like, because Jackie mentioned an opportunity. Opportunities usually include investments, right? And so here's how you can tell the difference between an opportunity and or investment that you desire, but you're having resistance around that comes from fear versus something where it's like truly not for you, right? How that would look like, and I'm glad I'm very comfortable doing this role playing, but how it would look like if it's your true intuition, your higher self speaking, and it is an opportunity, that is not for your highest good. Um, then it would be kind of like the energy. Well, I was about to say the energy would close, but the truth is the energy can close also from fear. How you can tell is if it's truly in alignment. There is a neutral voice within you that even if like maybe your ego is afraid of stepping forward, like because maybe the ego's like, oh my god, we've never done this before, I don't know, I'm not okay with this, right? That's the ego. That's the thinking mind. That's the one that wants to be logical and reasonable and all that stuff, which has nothing to do with your power. It has nothing to do with your sovereignty, because logic is not connected to energy, right? Energy is not logical. It spirals, it travels here, it goes diagonally. It's like that's how energy works. And so then it would just be this neutral, like yes, like even so the ego can go like hogwire, right? But if you listen also to your heart, and your heart, even if it's not loud and obnoxious, is saying, this is for me, I want this. I really would be, I'm actually excited about it. It's just a little scary, but I'm excited because I know it would totally, totally help me where I'm going. That is the voice you listen to. The voice that's like, no, no, we can't do this. Like it's all like, jazz hands and like obnoxious, loud voices. And, that's how that your ego will talk to you. It's like, and that's how your fear will talk to you. It will be in a triggered state. Right? So this is what that's about. If it's coming from a triggered emotional state where it's like kind of overtaking the conversation and you're not listening to your heart anymore, then that's, your ego, your fear, it's a fear-based decision. That's what that would be. And if it is neutral and it's coming from that place of calm, and number one, coming from your heart, and that's also why it takes practice to be in touch with your intuition and your heart. Because if you're not in touch with your heart, you can't tell the difference, because you're still out in the ether and still, functioning from just only the whole love and light thing is, rather than focusing on your heart and the power of your heart, because that's what it takes. And once you tap into the heart, then you connect with what is real. So that's really important. And so I'm seeing Jamie's sharing inner voice equals work with Margarita. Oh my goodness. Fear voice equals, oh my God, no, you can't afford it. Intuition equals, I love you, self. Oh, yes, absolutely. And I'm not going anywhere, and neither is your new tribe. You are wealthy AF. That is very beautiful put, Jamie. Very beautifully put. And you're right. Your intuition is really so loving. The intuition, your heart, it's always gonna be loving, even if it's like, how one of my clients used to call it the sacred smackdown that I would provide, because if someone's really in a belief of their fear, I'd be like, beloved, no, that's not the truth. And then they'd like be like, oh yeah, that's right, it's not the truth, because I'm now listening to my heart, and my heart's telling me that, like, yeah, that was not the truth, right? But that's how you change things, and you can change it anytime you want. You can change things like in the next second. If there's something you're not happy about in your life, for instance, taking the topic of sovereignty of today, and how it may look like if you're not in your sovereignty, for instance, is, let's see, what are some good examples of not being in your sovereignty? You are settling, right? You're settling in your life, whatever that is, with love, with your career, with whatever in your life, with relationships, you're settling. That is not you being in your ownership of your sovereignty. Because your sovereignty would be like, yes, I am welcoming it all. I am welcoming all the joy. I'm welcoming what I really, really desire and what I really want to be experiencing in my life. Yeah? So that's the sovereign being in you saying, I am not settling for what my experience is, right? So that's one example of when you're not in your sovereignty. And then I gave you an example of what being in your sovereignty is you're not settling, right? You're doing whatever it takes, even if it's scary. So I hope that's helpful. Not being in your sovereignty. Let's give you another example. Not being in your sovereignty looks like, um, let's take relationships, right? That could look like you settling in your relationships, not asking for what you want, not stepping up for what you desire, for the kind of love that you desire to be having. That's like in a romantic relationship, but even in just platonic relationships, you get to have what you want too, right? Like, if you're not in your sovereignty around your relationships that are platonic, for instance, then maybe you're experiencing dynamics that are not healthy for you. Maybe you're experiencing dynamics where you are not being lifted up, in your relationships. Then you know that you're not acting in your sovereignty in maybe that particular relationship, right? Conversely, if you are in your sovereignty with relationships, romantic or platonic, you're in relationships that lift you up, that make you a better person, that hold you high, that bring joy to your life, right? Those are some examples of just like distilling it in terms of like the relationship type of way, right? So when you activate your divine power in yourself, you are also taking ownership of your sovereignty, because it requires you to take ownership of your sovereignty in order for you to say, yes, I would like to connect with my divine power. That's the sovereign being talking. And that's what I mean by that. So just to recap, 3 ways to embrace your sovereignty. Number 1, declare that you are sovereign, and do so from a place where you genuinely mean it, where you truly feel it in your being. Number 2, the I am statement. In this case, the I am sovereign statement. This is a quick way to declare your sovereignty, is to just simply state it. And, kind of like I want to say, just to kind of add here, is that another way to really embrace your sovereignty is see where your sovereignty is not awakened and alive in your life. Because like I said, I think it was in the last live, it's much easier to notice what you're disappointed in or pissed off about or not okay with than saying, oh, I am aligned with this. I feel that. I feel awesome with this. It's much easier to say, I'm not okay with this. I'm not okay with that. These are the things that bother me. This is what I'm uncomfortable with. So do that and go to those places in your life where you're not feeling sovereign, where you are settling, where you're really actually not okay with the way things are going, right? And those are the areas where you're likely not sovereign. So that might be like a really kind of quick, easy way to notice that. And method 3, in terms of 3 ways to embrace your sovereignty, is to expand into the fullest version of you, the version that is unlimited. Because when you do that, you not only give yourself permission to be the sovereign being that you are, but you also allow yourself to be in that divinely powerful being that you really, really are. Because you really are, if you allow yourself to see yourself that way, right? And there are a lot of signals in society that inform us that we should not be unlimited. We should not, be in the fullest version of ourselves. We should be in fear. We should not trust ourselves. We should not trust our bodies. We should not trust our immune system. We should not trust how we move through the world. We should not trust our intuition. And, the creme de la creme of what I see happening on in the collective is, you should not believe that you are divine. You should, in fact, believe that you're separate from God. And that couldn't be more further from the truth. If you truly want to take ownership of your sovereignty, you see yourself as that extension of God, because you really are. You really are divine. You are. You just are. So I hope that was helpful for you. And whatever you do today, for those of us who are in the US, for many it's a day off. For a spiritually conscious entrepreneur, it's just another day where you're not taking, like you can take the day off if you want. You don't need to take it off if you want. Like for me, just to kind of share, when you are a spiritually conscious entrepreneur, you make up your own schedule. And so my schedule intentionally is going to be a little lighter today. I wanted to make sure I hopped in on this Rise Up with Margarita show today because that's really important to me, and especially the concept and topic of sovereignty. So important, and that's why I wanted to make sure I was on here today to share that with you and talk about that with you. And I love that you all have been so engaged in this dialogue, because that's really important when you're stepping up into your power, whatever that next level looks like for you. And like I said, there's always a next level, for you to step it up. And guaranteed, every single time you go to the next level, you will, I don't want to say feel triggered, because that may not automatically be the case, but there will be some initial resistance before the breakthrough. And so wherever you are at with the resistance, clear that out so that you can have what you want. Right? So yeah, it's going to be a lighter day for me today, and I'm going to see my little brother and his family and my niece and nephew. So that's going to be part of my day, and maybe I'll shoot some reels and that kind of thing. But this is how you get to have it. You get to have the kind of schedule that you want. You get to prioritize what's important to you and build your schedule around that. That's what you do when you're a spiritually conscious entrepreneur. You're not like, because the employee way, and believe me, I get it, because I was in the corporate atmosphere for many years myself before I began doing what I'm doing now. And so I understand how that works. It's like you wait for permission for someone to give you that permission to live. Like, that expression, can I just live? It's like, you don't even have to ask anyone to ask if you can just live. You just live, right? Because you gave yourself permission. You don't need to ask anyone for permission to be a sovereign being. You are the one who gives permission to yourself that you're a sovereign being. You're the one who gives permission to yourself to decide that you get to have what you want to have. You are the one who gets to decide how you want to be living your life. So yeah, so that's how you get to have it. If any of this has resonated for you, if you are ready to truly embrace your sovereignty at the next level of what you are here to experience as a light worker, and you're connected to your purpose, you're connected to your heart power, then I invite you to DM me to let me know what you're declaring about your sovereignty. Or, if you like, you can even declare what is the number one takeaway that you got from today's live. So that's my challenge to you. If you would like to go deeper on this, is, DM me, I am sovereign because, and then fill in the blank, or share the number one takeaway that you got from today's live if you desire to go higher for yourself. Okay? So you get to have it, you get to have what you want, and really, like, honestly, and I say this with so much love, the only person who's keeping you back from that is you. And once that lands with you in your heart, like at first I was like, excuse me, like when I did that internal work myself, I'm like, excuse me, I am at fault for this. But then like I got over myself, and then I'm like, oh yeah, okay, so I chose this, and this is what I've been doing, so I get it. And now I decide something else. Now I'd like to have another experience. So, so believe me, I get how at first it's a little uncomfortable, but it actually is liberating. That's actually part of the liberation for you, is that once you see that you yourself are the cause and effect, the night and the day, the alpha and the omega, right? And it begins and ends with you. And therefore, whatever you decide that you'll be experiencing will be what you experience. It is so liberating, because then you can decide to do things the way you want to be doing them. Even if you don't know how yet, if you don't know even how you're going to accomplish something, even if you don't know how you're going to make ends meet, for instance, if there's something that you really, really want to do and you're like, oh, that sounds really awesome, and I don't know how I'm going to make that happen. That's okay. You don't need to know how to make that happen. Don't worry about the how. Just show up for the why. And the why usually is because I am being called forward. I am being called forward to make a difference in the world and to rise higher and to make a deep impact. And so the how and the pieces and the details, don't worry about that for now. Just show up and decide that you're going to show up. Decide that you are going to be that alpha and omega. Okay. Yes, absolutely, Jackie. Show up for the why. Yeah, show up for the why. Everything else starts to fall into place. All the details of the, and I'm speaking to you, the ones who like need the plan, because I've been that person. I needed the plan. I will not move forward until I have the plan. That's not how energy works. How it works is get connected to your why, get connected to your alignment, get connected to your sovereignty, and then connect with that and be like, I'm ready to blast open, right? And don't worry about the how. That will start to filter in. You'll start, having the opportunities and everything that you want and need and all the resources if you show up for your why, not before. So have a wonderful rest of your Memorial Day weekday for those of us who are here in the US. And I will see you next week on June 7th. It will be June tomorrow. And so, very, very powerful. So I'll see you then for the next Rise Up with Margarita show. And for those of you who are ready to elevate, move up, go up to that next level of your sovereignty and ready to be supported in that and ready to just really open into that and not be worried about the, how am I going to make this happen? But you just show up for the why and your aligned self. And with your heart, you really can do anything. You just can. So have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone. And I was just looking out the window, and it's rainy and dank over here in Nueva York. But, there's still sun, right? Even though you can see clouds, you can always receive the ascension codes of the sun. So if you're in a place that is sunny right now, enjoy it. If you're not, then I hope you still enjoy yourself receiving, because it will still peek through. It will still peek through. Have a wonderful day, everyone.